Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today. Tacitus Day, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the tariff business that's going on, President Trump's tariff program, and those of his many trade advisors, such as Peter Navarro and so on. Now, there's firstly, there's a lot of confusion. Not everyone understands how tariffs work and what they are, and how there are many different forms of tariffs. Tariff is an overall euphemism, if you like, for many ways that different countries use various means to promote their own industries and to lessen the ability of other countries to sell their goods and services into that given country. So I just need to talk a little bit about that. But the fear and scare campaign that the globalist media have been running, world economy to be wrecked, Armageddon, stock market falls by 10 million %. I mean, the headlines are insane, and the fear mongering and scaremongering are just off the charts. So clearly, this is not something that the globalists want. And they want to try and disparage Trump and his policies at every turn, but particularly on this, it seems to have got them all excited. Now, what are tariffs meant to do, or what is the purpose behind, or the rationale, if you like, behind President Trump's tariffs? Well, very simply, President Trump says, well, if you put a tariff on American goods, that is, when we try to sell goods into your country, you put a tariff on that, then we will do the same to you. We will put a tariff on your goods coming into our country. Now, there couldn't be anything less controversial. You do it to us, we'll do it to you. That's it. That's the now. If you like, the Trump saying, well, if you have a 100% tariff on us, we'll only put a 50% tariff on you. So it's still, in many ways, quite benign. But that's all that's happened. Just that. Now, why anybody would have a problem, why that's an Armageddon scenario, why that's hysterical. If you put a tariff on our goods, we'll put a tariff on your goods. That's all. That's all that President Trump is saying. But for some reason, the globalists are trying to spin it into free trade under threat. Free trade. Well, hold on. Stop. If that country is putting a tariff on American goods, where's the free trade that you're talking about? What free trade? So free trade's become a catch cry for just really a mass movement of big ticket capital and mass movement of illiterate peasants around the world. That's the euphemism that they try and pack together on free trade. There is no free trade. Otherwise, there wouldn't be all these tariffs that all these countries have on American goods and other goods. So this idea that there's free trade going on in the world and President Trump is disrupting it is an outright outrageous lie. There is no free trade. There's tiny little pockets here and there where you may find some free trade, but otherwise it's not there. And again, that list that President Trump is putting up of all those countries that have tariffs on America, which isn't an exhaustive list, by the way, all those countries that put tariffs on American goods, then if tariffs are in existence, there is no free trade. So why the globalists keep saying that free trade is under threat? There is no free trade. So let's get that off the table. Now, I just want to talk about the various types of tariffs. Now, tariffs there's I guess 5 main areas of tariffs. Now, so tariffs is again kind of a euphemism for them all, but one is a straight tariff that if you want to sell your goods into America, we're going to put a 50% tariff on it. Now, tariff means that 50% of the landed price. So if that country is selling widgets into America at $1 each, for example, at $1 each, then, or it could be services, but let's stick with widgets for simplicity, at $1 each, then a 50% tariff on the landed price, that the invoice price at the level of the port, the airport or the shipping port where it arrives, we'll put a 50% tariff on that dollar, which means it's now $1.50. Now, the retail price of that product may be, I don't know, $5 or something, but the idea is that there'll be another 50. So a lot of people have tariff that it's some sort of like a goods and services tax or something like that's levied on the retail price. No, it's not. It's levied on the price. Now, any exporting country can say, well, why don't we reduce the price of the product? We've got quite a lot of profit in there, so instead of selling it for the widget for $1, invoice price at the port of entry into America, instead of selling it for $1, we'll sell it for 60 cents or something like that. So the 50% tariff only raises the product price to 90 cents at port of entry. So it's still the same or cheaper than it was previously. So many companies will absorb, I mean, not all, but some of the tariff price. So it ends up that the final price to the consumer in the United States, say, is on or about the same as it was. But now the American exchequer, the tax revenue collection system, can pull in this extra money into the system, the taxation system, then use that for, say, reducing personal income tax or fixing potholes and roads, whatever they want to do with it. But it increases the amount of tax collected by the American state or any country that's levying tariffs. So that's a direct. The next equivalent, or again, a euphemism for tariff, is what's called import numerical quotas. That is, you can sell your product in the United States, but you're only allowed to sell 100 widgets a year. That's the limit. As soon as you exceed 100 widgets, that's it. We'll cut you off. So you're only allowed to sell a certain amount of your product in America. And different countries have this, by the way. It's not uniquely or exclusively America. So then it's an import numerical quota, the amount of widgets you're allowed to sell. There's not a tariff put on them, as in a tax on them as they arrive, but there's an import limitation in numbers. Now, the next way of manipulating the tariff concept is through currency devaluation. Now, the Chinese and the other Asian countries are shockers for this. So what they'll do is they'll just say, well, we'll just change the exchange rate, that is the amount of Chinese yuan or whatever, or renminbi, to exchange for US dollars. We'll just devalue that by, for example, 20%. And that'll make our currency cheaper, which means it'll make our products cheaper when we sell them in America. So even though you're putting a tariff on it when it comes from America, we can offset that by manipulating the currency exchange rate to artificially make our products cheaper. So that's another way of, if you like, doing a tariff or a tariff workaround, because in return, it also makes American products more expensive in China. So devaluing the Chinese currency makes Chinese products cheaper when they sell in America, but it makes American products more expensive when they're being sold in China. So that's another way of it's gaming the system in effect. The next way of doing it is to give direct subsidies to manufacturers. So every widget you sell in America to the Chinese government, for example, or others, I mean, Vietnam or something, for every widget you sell in America, we'll give you $1, or we'll give you some sort of a subsidy. Or if you're manufacturing products to export to America, we'll give you all your, we'll give you a 200% tax write-off. That sort of thing. So there's backdoor or backroom type manipulation of the subsidies and the soft loans, handouts of varying sorts, tax write-offs, accelerated tax write-downs, and so on, for export-based industries targeting certain other countries. So this is something that. These are the various ways that the equivalent of tariffs can take place. It's not just direct tariffs. Again, there's currency manipulation, subsidies, import numerical quotas, and so on. Now, these, the Chinese and as soon as the tariff starts to take effect, the US tariffs take effect, they'll do something like this. They'll do backdoor subsidies or currency manipulation. You know, all these sorts of things will happen. But it looks like President Trump's onto the game there, is saying, well, if you do that, I'll just increase the tariffs even more. So now what's the end game here? Well, these countries can say, well, we'll drop all the tariffs. You know, we want to, okay, we don't want your tariffs on us, so we'll just drop all our tariffs and we'll have, you know, free trade. Well, that's one outcome. That's possible. Or they'll agree to sort of match that. Well, if we have 50% tariff, you have 50% tariff. That gives each country sort of the ability to collect taxation through the tariffs. So that's another possibility. Or there's some sort of other offsetting measure, you know, such as they agree not to manipulate currencies or whatever the case may be. Now, we need to remember how American trade has been used in the past. It's been to threaten, coerce, and bludgeon other countries into going along. If you want access to our markets, you know, American consumers, if you want access to our markets, if you want access to our banking system, if you want access to, you know, US dollars as a reserve, you want access to any of that, you better do what we say. And we want you to have LGBTQ pride marches down the main street every second day. We want you to have lesbian counselling services in every street corner. And we want you to create and invent a racial grievance industry in your country. If you do those things, then you know, we want black lesbians in every board of directors, and so on and so forth. You know, so the American, the globalist controlled United States was using world trade to you know, act gangster-like in demanding that every other country institute globalist race and gender and LGBTQ hustling policies and programs and laws. So I would hope that the Trump administration will use American clout to unwind those things, you know, stop mass migration, that sort of stuff. But those are different things. So there's nothing, you know, dramatic or Armageddon-like or it's going to end the universe, nothing like that at all. And Trump's made this, I think, President Trump's made this abundantly clear. We're only putting tariffs on countries that bring tariffs on us. But the media is spinning it as if this, you know, this Trump just got up one morning and said, I'm gonna give everyone, you know, tariffs. I'm gonna get that. I mean, it was nothing like that. Why? I mean, if what President Trump's doing is so bad, they wouldn't need to tell so many lies. And there are so many lies in the way they're depicting this tariff business. But I don't think it's that big a deal. I think it's going to settle down. You know, there'll be a realignment of things, and countries are either going to drop their tariffs, which is one possibility, or they're going to just do tariff matching. You know, manufacturing will, not in every case, but you know, I think the very cheap low-end manufacturing probably would still stay offshore. But I think any manufacturing that has even a modicum of value add will return to the United States. And I think that's a good thing. It's being misused, I think, in the third world. And it's only over there because of the cheap peasant labour and because of the low standards of, say, environmental hygiene and things like that. So I think in a total value add sense, I think it's much better that it should be done in a first world country. And it'll create lots of good jobs for Americans and so on. So I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's going to increase inflation at all. And I don't think it's going to be bad for the world economic system. It is a realignment, obviously, but I don't think it's a bad one. And I don't think there are going to be any negative consequences. The globalists are running around claiming that it's the end of the universe, but don't take any notice of that. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.